Welcome to an HDRN Pragmatic Trials module on budget planning and considerations. The budget is a practical plan that helps the trial team think through the people, sites, materials, data systems, partners, and timelines required to move from an idea to a completed study.
By the end of this module, you should be able to do 4 things. First, distinguish between different budget types, especially grant budgets and operational budgets. Second, identify the major cost categories in a pragmatic trial, including the ones that are easy to miss. Third, build budget scenarios that account for uncertainty, delays, and changes in scope. And fourth, align budget items with real trial operations, milestones, and funder rules.
Every trial budget needs to answer 3 simple questions. What work must happen? Who will do it? And what resources are needed? If one of these questions is unclear, the budget will usually be unclear too. For example, if the protocol requires sites to screen patients, collect data, attend training, and complete follow-up, those activities need time and money attached to them. The budget should be developed along with the trial design.
Yeah, exactly. Budget planning should begin while the protocol is still flexible. That is when the team can make realistic choices about design, number of sites, follow-up length, data sources, intervention complexity, and partner engagement. Once the protocol is locked, the budget often becomes damage control, trying to fund decisions that have already been made. For example, adding more sites may improve recruitment, but it also adds contracts, training, monitoring, payments, and coordination. Longer follow-up may strengthen the science, but it increases staffing and data costs.
Building on the idea that budgeting is part of trial design, it helps to separate 2 documents that often get mixed together. The grant budget is written for the funder. It uses broader categories, follows funder rules, and explains why the requested funds are needed. The operational budget is written for the trial team. It is more detailed and is used to manage the study in real life. Both are important, but they do different jobs. A grant budget may help you secure the money, but the operational budget helps you spend it wisely and keep the trial moving. On the next slide, we will compare these 2 budgets more directly.
This table shows the practical differences. The grant budget is for the funder, so it is usually higher level, more structured, and shaped by what the funding opportunity allows. Its main purpose is to secure funding. The operational budget is for the team running the trial. It is more detailed, more flexible, and should be updated as the trial evolves. It includes the line items that help you answer questions like, are site payments on track? Do we have enough staff time? Are vendor costs higher than expected? Understanding the difference helps avoid a common mistake, trying to run a complex trial using only the high-level grant budget.
Most trial budgets can be organized into a few broad categories. People and expertise usually make up a large part of the budget. Coordinators, analysts, methodologists, trainees, and site support. Materials and technology include things like software, hardware, study materials, and data platforms. Contracted services can include translation, analytics, health economics, graphic design, or indigenous consultation. Engagement and dissemination include patient partners, training, site implementation, and knowledge translation. The key message is that the budget should reflect the full trial, not just the scientific core.
A useful next step is separating fixed costs from variable costs. Fixed costs are expenses you will likely have regardless of how many participants enroll, such as protocol development, database setup, software licenses, and creating training materials. Variable costs change as the trial grows. These include participant payments, site payments, shipping, return envelopes, and translation volume. This distinction matters because variable costs are where budgets can shift quickly. If recruitment doubles, these costs may double too. If recruitment is slower than expected, some costs may fall, while staffing costs may increase because the trial takes longer. This is why fixed and variable costs are central to scenario planning, which we will come back to later in the module.
Now that we have separated fixed and variable costs, let's look at the category that often drives the largest share of the budget: people. The budget needs to reflect the roles required to run the trial: coordinators, research assistants, analysts, data managers, methodologists, and site-level support. Just as important, you need to add the costs that are often forgotten: benefits, annual salary increases, turnover, onboarding, and coverage when someone is away. In most trials, the work is more people-intensive than expected, so the question is not just how many staff do we need, it is who is needed, when, and for how long.
This slide shows why staff effort should be mapped across the trial lifecycle. A project manager, coordinator, data manager, and statistician do not all work at the same intensity at the same time. Some roles are heavier during startup, others during recruitment, and others near analysis and closeout. A flat staffing estimate hides this variation and can lead to either under-budgeting or inefficient spending. FTE mapping helps you think through role, phase, year, and site needs. It also makes assumptions visible. For example, if site initiation is expected to take 3 months, the coordinator workload may spike during that period. This kind of mapping gives the budget a stronger operational foundation.
Not every required task should be done by the core trial team. Some work may require external expertise or additional capacity, such as data linkage, electronic data capture systems, translation, graphic design, legal review, health economics, or monitoring support. These contracted services can be expensive, and they are often underestimated when budgets are built from assumptions instead of quotes. The practical advice is simple. Request formal quotes whenever possible, even if the contract is not finalized yet. A quote gives you a stronger number and a clearer scope. It also helps avoid surprise costs later. Contracted services are especially important in pragmatic trials because the work often spans sites, systems, partners, and data sources.
Training is core to ensuring high trial quality. Teams may need cultural safety training, OCAP training, Sannyas training, good clinical practice certification, and role-specific training tied to the protocol. Sites may also need initiation sessions, refresher sessions, and updated materials when procedures change. The most common budgeting mistake is paying for the course or platform, but forgetting the staff time required to attend training. That time should be protected and budgeted. Training also supports consistency across sites, which matters when a trial depends on many people doing the same work in different settings. So when building the budget, include both the direct training costs and the paid time needed to complete them.
After training, the next practical category is trial materials. These are the items that can look cheap when you price them one at a time, but they add up quickly across many participants and sites. Printed letters, handouts, labels, shipping boxes, return envelopes, site binders, study kits, posters, and intervention materials all need to be counted at the full projected volume. A common mistake is budgeting for the first batch only, then realizing later that every site needs replacements, extras, or updated versions. For pragmatic trials, where implementation often happens across routine care settings, materials are part of how the trial becomes workable.
Written translation may be needed for consent forms, participant letters, surveys, and recruitment materials. Audio translation may be needed when oral formats are more appropriate. Some materials may also need plain language review or accessible formats that work with assistive technology. Interpretation may be required for live conversations, training, or participant interactions. Costs can vary a lot depending on the language, urgency, length, and technical content. The key point is to budget based on the needs of the population you plan to include.
Next, patient and partner engagement should be budgeted across the full trial lifecycle, not just at the beginning. Partners may contribute to protocol development, review materials, advise on recruitment, attend meetings, interpret findings, support closeout, and help share results in ways that make sense to participants and communities. If those activities are important, they need to be resourced. That includes compensation for time, preparation, meeting attendance, and sometimes travel or accessibility support.
Data costs are broader than hiring an analyst. In many pragmatic trials, the data work begins with project initiation and access fees, then moves through cohort creation, data linkage, cleaning, quality checks, interim analysis, final analysis, and sensitivity analyses. Each step may require staff time, data provider fees, approvals, documentation, and sometimes specialized analytic support. This is especially important when using administrative data, registries, or linked health system data sets. The budget should reflect the full data pathway, not just the final analysis. Otherwise, teams can end up with money to analyze data, but not enough money to access, prepare, or validate it properly.
After data and analytics, we need to look closely at site-level costs. Each site is its own cost center. Even when sites are following the same protocol, they may need different levels of support, training, monitoring, and troubleshooting. A per-site budget should include initiation payments, participant-related payments, data collection payments, intervention delivery support, and time for a local site champion if needed. It should also include the costs of helping sites when things do not go as planned, such as retraining, technical support, or extra monitoring for non-lead sites.
Digital tools are core trial infrastructure. The budget should include the systems your team will use to manage data, documents, communication, and trial operations. That may include REDCap or another data capture system, an electronic trial master file, randomization platforms, data access fees, project management tools, Zoom, Adobe, Canva, ChatGPT, Gamma, websites, and domain fees. The budget should also include hardware needed, like laptops, tablets, or trial-specific devices needed for data collection or intervention delivery.
Most trials have layered funding. A government grant may support the main trial, while seed funding supports feasibility work. A foundation or training grant supports a trainee or sub-study, and in-kind institutional support covers meeting space, staff time, or infrastructure. Industry partnerships may be appropriate in some cases, but they need clear independence protections.
With the potential identified funders, a single budget version is rarely enough. Before submitting for funding, it helps to build scenarios. The best case scenario assumes things go smoothly: full enrollment, milestones on time, and little staff turnover. The expected case uses more realistic assumptions, including modest delays and normal variability. The worst case asks what happens if recruitment is slow, timelines extend, scope changes, or key staff leave. The extended or expanded scenario asks what it would cost to add time, sites, or activities. This does not mean you submit every scenario to the funder. It means the team understands where the budget is fragile. Scenario-based budgeting helps you see the consequences of uncertainty before the trial is already under pressure.
Even when the total budget is adequate, the timing of money can create problems. Trials often spend money before funds arrive. Pre-award planning, staff hiring, site initiation, training, materials, and data setup may happen before reimbursement or milestone payments are released. That is why cash flow planning matters a lot. You need to know when money comes in, when expenses go out, and where shortfalls could occur. This is especially important for grants paid in tranches, contracts tied to milestones, or site payments that depend on reimbursement cycles. A strong cash flow plan includes working capital, contingency planning, and clear payment terms with sites and vendors.
So, to close, a strong clinical trial budget is not a formality. It is what makes the trial possible. A good budget is protocol aligned, meaning every cost can be traced back to a real trial activity. It is milestone-based, so costs are phased by trial stage instead of averaged across years. It is scenario-tested, so the team has considered what is likely and what could go wrong. It is clearly justified, so every line item can be explained and defended. And it is resilient, meaning it can absorb delays without derailing the science.
Thanks for listening. For more content like this, please like and subscribe to our channel.